Welcome to the latest episode of Five on the Floor, the Five Reasons for joining us on your favorite podcast app, on Apple Podcasts, on Android. We recommend Spotify. Also, check out the Five Reasons YouTube channel. That's where you can go for all your South Florida sports content. We'll be adding more there. You're going to want to be subscribed there because we're doing live shows there on the Heat. So make sure you sub. You can catch us live, then catch us back on the podcast feed as well. We'll also be putting exclusive content on the podcast feed. Also, check out Off the Floor. That's our Discord server. That's $2.99 per month. Link right here in the description. You'll bypass the Apple upcharge. Off the Floor is the place to go for the most Heat anywhere, the most Heat information and conversation. It's also our hub. So anything we got going on, you're going to find it there. And as we start going to the games, that's where we put everything in the host update. So check it out. It's Off the Floor. Also, PrizePicks, legal in the state of Florida. Put down your $5. You'll get $50 in free lineups. PrizePicks.com. You're going to have the NBA and NHL and NFL all to play here pretty soon. Again, it's legal in the state of Florida. If you see the code, a code other than 5 in there, delete it. Enter the code FIVE. And now, today's episode.
Uh-oh. Yeah. It's Mercy. Music by Mercy again. Heat Nation. We the culture. Yo, E, I need you to call timeout. Need Brady to set the floor plan. Tropical blanket. Open for the shot. Yo, Greg, set the pick. Still 5 on the floor, still ride for my dog. Still battle on the court, still survive in the war. Keep your eye on the ball, or get burned from the keep this mic off the wall without turning the cheek. From night to day, no sleepy paths or allowed to mornings. The nut is sleeping us, never catch us snoring. Live from Miami, report in the heat with 5 Reasons Sports from the courts to the streets. Yeah, Wake County, Heat Nation, we still proud.
Welcome to Five on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
Today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick and at 5 Reasons Sports. I got Greg Sylvander. You can follow him at Greg Sylvander. The Miami Heat lose their preseason opener in Puerto Rico. Be coming back to play a preseason game here on Monday. Then they got the scrimmage. It's a little bit of an odd kind of format this year because they went to Puerto Rico early. Of course, several players did not play in this game. Some on the Magic side. They still don't have Jalen Suggs. They didn't have Mo Wagner is still out. Franz Wagner didn't play last night either. On the Heat side, not a lot of guards. Obviously, Tyler Hero is still out. Kasparis Hakachonis is still out. Who else is still out now? I'm sorry.
Davion Mitchell.
Davion Mitchell, Pella Larson. Whole bunch of guys.
All the guards.
All the guards except a couple. And I want to start here before we go anywhere else because I just think we should say this, or I should say this. And then we're actually going to run the podcast interview with him that we did on Media Day, which I thought was really thoughtful and one of our better ones, and I'm kind of upset we waited. But we're going to run it now because it's actually going to be appropriate. So after you listen to this, just wait later in the day. This one will pop up. It's just remarkable that Drew Smith was playing last night. I'm just going to start there. Whatever you thought of him as a player when he first came in and, sort of all the jokes that he was just Spo's guy and nobody can understand why Spo was, so enamored with him and why he survived this cut and that cut and why they brought him back. And then he tears his ACL and why they brought him back. And then he tears his Achilles and why they brought him back. I mean, for him to be on the court, and he didn't play badly either. It's such a tribute to him. And when you get a chance to talk to him as we did, and you just hear how thoughtful he is about the situation and, what he puts his faith in. And, everybody has their own, support system. In his case, it seems to be his family and his faith he's just someone on this roster I don't think you can help but root for. To come back from an ACL and an Achilles in successive years, and as Spoelstra said the other day, he says his superpower is resilience. They didn't gift him this spot either, and they didn't. He earned it with his play last season, and they were a better team during that stretch when he was on the floor. To me, that's my number one takeaway last night is that this guy being on the floor at all was amazing.
Yeah, and it's sooner than I expected, but also I think it immediately indicates to me that Drew Smith is likely to be a rotation player, and it could just be in the backup guard capacity, you know what I mean? But he even could be trusted to start in certain moments if you see there that injuries rack up. Spo trusts him, and so one thing I guess a takeaway from this, and it's early, so let's just we all recognize that. But if Drew Smith can be a rotation level player and you've kind of locked him into a 3-year deal at around a minimum type salary, that's using the salary cap wisely. So it is a testament to him to get back out there, and he's had a great training camp. But for him to be playing, he played 10 minutes. So, they're easing him back in. He had 2 steals and a block, or 2 blocks and a steal, one or the other. I got to go look at the box score again. But you just automatically could see that he made a difference, and Spoelstra's going to lean into that guy. So that it was just great to see him back on the court. And now he doesn't have to worry about getting cut unless they don't pick up those guaranteed years in future seasons. But they tend to want to keep him around.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think they're going to keep him around. I just think he's going to be one of these guys that you just assume is going to be there. And then the question is what his role is based on the given year. And I don't really want to put anything past him. Obviously, he doesn't have like elite athleticism. He talked to us on the podcast about the differences, the way he defends and the way Davion defends. The fact that Spo has the option of going to both of them this year, because Davion was acquired after Drew got hurt. And now if you have a situation where a guard's just getting off against you, you can go to this, these 2 defensive demons. I mean, you can put out a lineup this year of, well, I don't want to say Ware right now because we're going to talk about him. But you can put out a lineup right now that includes Bam, includes Wiggins, includes Davion, and includes Drew Smith. There's some things that you can do with that. And, Spoelstra has a lot of variability, I think, with the lineups this year and with the rotation and how he plays it, even if we kind of see 9 guys or 10 guys once Tyler's healthy. But the Drew Smith thing is just amazing to me, and I just think he deserves his flowers for sure this year. Like, that's somebody that, like, my daughter was looking for a jersey. That's somebody's jersey I would look to get. I think he embodies everything that you kind of want an athlete to embody these days. All right, number 2. Let's get to the decision that was made last night to start Jovic over Ware. And first, can I have a moment of applause or something?
You were right. I thought it would be Ware and Adebayo from jump because that's how they went last year. And I should have known that Cleveland series, when Spo says that it was humiliating and he wasn't burned out, he just was embarrassed by what happened. That's going to be a reflection of his future decision making. And this was the first step of that. I know you're going to lean into more of what Nico looked like because there were some really fun moments from Jovic in particular. But a huge takeaway for me was that Bam and Ware did not play 1 minute together. So this was like Ware was basically Bam's backup.
Yep. And I think that's where it's going to start. I don't think that it's going to be exclusive. I do think they're going to play together. And I think you're going to look at kind of a rotation of the 3 of them. Precious may get some minutes here or there, but I really think they're going to lean into Bam, Ware, and Jovic. But also, there was a sequence last night, and I sent it to you guys. There's somebody who listens to the podcast religiously. He's actually kind of an icon. Appreciate. He's a friend of mine. He's also kind of an icon in South Florida in some ways. I'll explain to you later, Greg, how. But he sent me a video of 16 seconds of one possession and Ware's defense on it, and basically not moving.
Hey, let's even take it a step further. When you sent the clip to us, Alex wrote back, "Why are you sending us clips of Hassan Whiteside?"
Right. I mean, this clip was, and my friend finished it off with the clip was he was narrating to me because he's trying to make a point. He's a Jovic guy, and I don't want to make this, we had Khalil on the podcast. I hope people listen to it, and it's on there. I mean, I was trying to get him to tell me more about his trip from Egypt. He didn't seem to want to tell me, but we got into a little bit of basketball there, and he's a likable guy. This is nothing about that. It's just that, and I don't want to make this, pitting two players against each other. But the reason I thought that Jovic was going to start, other than just a fit with Bam, and additionally, the fact now that Tyler's out, that you need kind of that offensive creativity in the starting lineup, is just that Ware still has too many of these moments. And my friend clipped this, and it's 16 seconds long, and it's just like a lollygag special. Like he's not doing anything. He lets a guy blow by. First thing, he gets dunked on, but it's before that in the possession that he's not moving. And this is exactly what I watched in that summer league game, that after which Spoelstra talked about the lack of professionalism, which wasn't just about that game, but it was that game, I think, kind of it was on Spo's mind, because Spo did an interview with NBA TV that day from courtside, okay, at the big arena in Vegas, and so this was hard to watch, and if this is what it's going to be, then there's going to be some nights he plays 12 minutes. Spo's going to put him in and not put him in again, right?
Yeah, that's just how this goes, where if a player has the mental lapses on defense specifically, it will drive Spoelstra crazy. And I just think that he's going to lean into the guys he can trust. But Ware has an opportunity. He's responded to a lot of the calls so far. I think that this was a game where I obviously, and as was documented in the 16-second clip that you sent, and we'll probably have to get that clip on Discord so that people know what we're talking about.
Put it up. No, I know. I did. It's on host updates from last night. I'm loath to put it on Twitter.
Yeah.
Because
they need to sub off the floor.
Well, yes, we like the money. That's the first thing. But the second reason I'm loath to put it on Twitter is because you and I both know, because we dealt with this firsthand, that when I put a clip on Twitter over the summer, which was just me walking into a practice and just filming whatever I saw, and there was that clip of Ware and Golden going one-on-one, and Ware looked totally disengaged in that entire thing, and I posted it on Twitter, and we know he saw it because he didn't react very, positively to it, understandably. I post whatever it is that I see when I come in, because we don't get to see a lot. So I'll post this. If he had dunked on somebody, I would have posted that too. I just happened to post that, and it got like 1,000 likes, and it got his attention. So I'm not trying to do that again. There's no agenda here.
No, and it's just one game. So we're not going to overreact, but these are the kinds of things, if we're going to make anything of the preseason, and obviously we're in the business of analyzing what does take place, those lapses are going to earn him less minutes and less trust. And we're not going to keep piling on Khalil Ware all day in this show, but that was definitely when you just see him and Bam completely split up. I guess there's certain matchups where you're going to put them together, and maybe with no guards, Nico had to be out there because they need his creative skills, as you mentioned, but you would think you'd see at least a couple minutes of it. And so that's something to continue to monitor. How much Bam and Ware will we see, and how wrong was Greg when he said that those two would start the season next to each other?
Well, your rationale on it made sense, in the idea that you give him the starting spot, you give him this carrot, okay? But they have obviously seen enough of Nico.
Yeah, they paid him.
They paid him, right? To know, okay, I've said there's a chance Nico could be one of their 3 best players this year, and I still believe that. And so
mind-blowing to me. I haven't fully wrapped my head around the implications of Nico really taking that leap. I haven't talked about it enough, but it would be a game changer if he actually is top 3 player on this team.
Yes, it would. No, you're right though. It would be a game changer. It's a total X factor for them, because if that's the case, assuming what you're going to get from Bam, at least on one end of the floor, and what he also contributes on the other, and what Hero is going to provide offensively, I'm basically saying that there's a chance that Nico could be more impactful than Norm Powell or Andrew Wiggins. And I can tell you, and I thought Wiggins was good last night too, but I can tell you that there are people who think Norm's going to be an all-star this year. So what I'm basically saying is that I think from an impact standpoint, in terms of overall game, I think Nico could be, okay, I think he's going to be top 5. I don't think there's any question of that. But I think he could be as high as number 3 for them. And so, again, I don't want to overplay the Ware thing here because I don't want to spend the whole season pitting them against each other, and I think people think I am. And I want to be careful of that. But you have one guy that it just seems has gotten it, okay? And they paid him like he got it. And the other guy who hasn't gotten it consistently, and it is going to drive Spo crazy. And I also think that's one of the reasons why they brought in a guy like Precious. It's not just that they needed an extra player in the front court. Precious plays hard.
That's
okay.
True.
Whatever his limitations are, he plays hard.
Yeah.
Okay. And now he's on a make good contract, which is going to get him to play harder. And I would not be stunned. I'm just putting this out there. If Ware's going to do what he did on that possession last night with any kind of consistency, there's going to be a game early in the season where that second half, instead of Ware coming off the bench, Precious comes off the bench. And that's going to end up being a podcast topic. And I'm just laying it out there because that possession was gross. It's just, I just look at our Discord, but it is everything that drives Eric Spoelstra insane and drove him insane about Hassan Whiteside. It's just like he's just wandering around, and then ultimately you really can trace that entire possession to him not giving effort. And that if that's going to happen again, this ain't going to be about what I say. It's going to be about what the longest tenured coach in the NBA says, and that's going to be playing Precious Achiuwa in the second half of the game. That's where it's going. Anyway, let's get off of it. We'll talk about something else on the other. I'm sorry, that clip just like
it's jarring. It is.
It's really bad.
Let's hope that he comes out and is full of energy in the next game on Monday.
I mean, Alex's comment. I mean, our thread's
he's gonna be angry that I shared that with our listeners. But you know what? That's why the loyalists that are listening to this show off the heels of the Canes game, we appreciate you.
Yeah, exactly. We just gave you something. All right, there you go. Go to our Discord. All right, we do want to tell you about a great sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Hour. I mean, I'm telling you, like that possession last night was the kind of possession that might drive you, to have a couple of drinks today. And if you do, you got to try this game-changing product called Pre-Alcohol. Pre-Alcohol from ZBiotics, the probiotic drink, the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make your pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Again, make sure you do it the day before. That's just my advice to you based on my use of it. Fall is here, and this means it's time to enjoy cooler weather and some drinks out with friends. They're enjoying a pint at a fall festival or a spooky cocktail at a Halloween party. Don't forget to drink a pre-alcohol before drinking. You'll be able to celebrate and still wake up feeling great the next day. Go to zbiotics.com/onthefloor to learn more, and you get 15% off your first order when you use On the Floor checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/onthefloor and use the code ONTHEFLOOR checkout for 15% off. Okay, why don't you give me your third? What was your third last night?
They actually did try to play faster, and we should acknowledge that. It's hard to quantify, particularly when you look at Orlando got so many more shots at the basket, but they did off of not just turnovers, but off of stops. They tried to get out and get passes ahead. So that there was early offense. I'm not going to call it fast break heavy or anything like that, but they did do things earlier. A few different people have noted it. I think Coop wrote about it on the Miami Heat site. They shared that this morning. So that's a takeaway, because we always wonder, are they going to actually increase in pace? We'll see if the whole league, because this is the thing, and you said this the other day, like that it's a copycat league. We're going to see if pace, like everyone wants to do what Indiana, or they're going to try to do what Indiana does if you don't have one of those upper echelon stars and play faster. So is that going to just be the trend league wide? We'll see. But it was noticeable that they tried to get out and run. And we'll just see if they have the horses to do that in a sustained fashion throughout a whole year.
Yeah, and I asked Spo the question at training camp, and I said, you players always say they want to run. You always say that they want to run until they say they want to run until you tell them to run. And then his quote was, "Players are full of crap." I think that this gets conflated sometimes, and I'm glad you noticed it last night, because there is this idea that you need a bunch of track stars to be able to run. That's not what this team has, and it's not really what Spo is getting at. He just wants them to play faster. It doesn't necessarily mean sprint faster. Yes, some sprinting is involved in that, but it's also quicker decisions, getting the ball out of your hands. Honestly, he wants them to play more of a European style. And they say they want to play more of a European style. And suddenly they are a European laced team. Okay. We're at media day, and who walks in? It's Fontecchio, it's Larson, it's Jovic. I mean, they have leaned into this in a significant way. And even if some players weren't born in a foreign country, they play for their countries overseas. And so they get, that becomes part of, what they bring to the game. And, this has been an incredible transformation that we don't talk about enough. I mean, the man who quote unquote runs this organization, although we know it's more of a collective now, stayed away from any European players for basically 2 decades. I mean, he got two, and he's mentioned Martin Murasep, who was a disaster first round pick. Somebody I know ran into Martin Murasep about a year ago. I was like, that's a name I hadn't heard. And I know Pat mentioned him in press conference, but also very early on, with the Heat, he brought in Sasha Danilovic, who I just remember for chain smoking. But he also was a pretty good shooter, but not, I don't know, didn't seem all that engaged in what was going on. And so these couple of experience, and Vashawn Leonard ended up beating him out and taking his spot, if you recall, and become a bigger part of that team. But if you look at what has happened here is, like, from not taking any of them, he has gone completely the other direction. And the European style is the ball doesn't stick. You don't. It's not a lot of ISO. And this is what Jovic, and I, again, recommend everybody listen to the interview he did with us on Media Day, was talking about. He said, we have to play faster. He didn't say we have to run faster. He said we have to play faster. And that's another reason to cycle back on this, why I've been so bullish on Jovic this year, because I just think I can see the lineups. We talk about the defensive lineups, Greg, and you talk about, you can throw Drew Smith out there with Davion and with Wiggins and with Bam. But there's also some offensive lineups that Spo can go to, where he can have Tyler out there with with Jovic, with Bam.
You think they'll play much 5 out this year? Like, do you think they can get to that with their lineups?
I think they can. I think when you have Norm and Tyler out there, I think that you can do that. And I think you Bam can space now, and Nico can space. Now the question is, can Larson space? Can Jaquez space? This is where I want to, again, I'm still trying to figure out what the role for Jaime is, because it doesn't really fit with either. But I do think if he does get back to, and I hope people listen to the podcast he did with us, if he does get back to just going downhill, then I think it's a change of pace guy for certain runs that he can find some opportunities. But I see them as having like this kind of defensive group. And then I see them having this kind of offensive European, everybody's in motion, balls out quick. And Spo has played this way before. Prior to the COVID break, okay, if you remember the 1920 season, and he did that with Jimmy, who,
That's
again,
true.
we know liked to slow things down, okay? I mean, he was a good passer, but not an elite passer, not a LeBron-level passer, and liked to get to the line. But, he did this with Jimmy out there. And he did that with Kendrick Nunn out there. Kendrick Nunn, as we know, was a ball stopper. I mean, he could score, but he was a ball stopper. And he had Tyler as a rookie, and Dragic, of course, who was kind of the Heat's intro to real high-level European ball, right? Okay, but this also feeds into. But he did it that year. I mean, that be prior to the COVID break. They had a three-week struggle prior to COVID. But before that ball was popping. The offense was top 10, and he has more of those guys with this group. But the other thing is on this, and we didn't get to see him last night, but if they're able to develop Hakachonis, did I pronounce it incorrectly?
Yakachonis. Just call him Kaz.
F me. Okay. It's Sunday morning. I need his antibiotics. Okay. Okay. If they develop him, this style
Oh, it leans into his strengths. 100%.
completely. And that's so I think that if you see where they're going, it's pretty obvious. And it's pretty obvious why certain guys won't fit as well. And the guys who I think will struggle to fit in that kind of situation are Jaquez, Ware. It goes without saying, but Rozier is kind of the absolute opposite of that style. And I think the guys who will fit are Jovic, Larson. I think Tyler. I do think Bam can play any style. I think Norm can play any style. I think Wiggins can adjust to it, and he can be the beneficiary of that style at the end of possessions. But Cass will be the ultimate beneficiary of that style, and I think that's its final form, honestly.
And Adam Simon turned to Spo on draft night and said, "I got you your point guard," I think was what he said out loud. So it's interesting also to see the way that the scouting team, the scouting department specifically, has started to funnel in guys, and you're seeing the influence of a guy like Adam Simon, who really went, he was a big Nico proponent, and now to see that start to come to fruition, it's huge. The other thing before we kind of wrap up on one preseason game, because we're going to do it all again Monday, I also think that Myron Gardner, and there's the young guy Trevor Keels, it was 4 for 4 from the field. These are guys we should watch. I think Myron Gardner is going to he's going to keep the two-way spot he has, but he played really good yesterday. And that was something that in Summer League people were a little unsure of why he would stick around, but he looked good in this game, and he's had a great camp by all indications.
He looks like a typical Heat kind of find, honestly. And we had him on the podcast, very, very pleasant, and we may run some of that stuff here as we go, but he just focused on defense. He wants to guard. That's the thing, and that's why he was attractive to them for the most part. Is he has the athletic ability to do it, and they can probably, this is another of these guys they're going to mold. They're going to look, and we'll close it here. The European style is nice, and that is where I think they're going, but they also want some dogs on defense. Like I think this is the parity, the duality they're trying to establish. Is we've got a group of guys on that just want to guard, okay. And we got a group of guys that the ball's going to pop, and then it's up to Spo to kind of figure out what to deploy when. And it shouldn't be any surprise. And I said this over the summer, it shouldn't be any surprise with as much time as Erik Spoelstra has spent scouting and coaching in high-level international competition that this is what he was going to bring back. And it's a little bit of Pacers. Okay, Rick Carlisle deserves enormous credit for changing the way that he's played over the years, and he really is at the forefront of a lot of this. And he's a terrific coach. He's a top 5 coach in the NBA, in my view. And I know Spo has respect for him, which obviously goes back to 2011.
Indiana should have never fired him the first time.
Never should have fired him the first time, and I don't think Dallas. I don't think Dallas should have fired him either. But that it is what it is. But Spo, I know, has respect for him and regard for him. But I think this is an amalgamation of all of these kind of things. So we'll see. Anyway, we did 28 minutes on a post preseason pod on a Sunday morning. So I hope you take it in. This is for your Sunday, and this is also since you don't have to watch Dolphins Panthers. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. After all, someone needs to listen to my dad.